Hey everybody! Today we're going to be talking about oil immersion and how to actually do oil immersion on the microscope. So the oil immersion technique is generally what we utilize whenever we want to look at very small things under the microscope and we want to go all the way into that 100x lens. So this is generally for our class just going to be bacteria that we're going to be doing that with. And kind of the concept with the oil immersion, why we call it oil immersion, is because we have to utilize immersion oil in order to get the best picture possible. So the way that the immersion oil basically works out is that whenever the light that we're shining onto our sample is coming up and hitting our sample, some of it starts scattering out a little bit. And that scattering can kind of make our images blurry, especially on these very high magnifications. So when we put a little drop of oil on there, that oil will actually sit on top of your slide and then wrap around the oil immersion lens, after which all that scattered light now gets bent back up into our lens and we get the full view of what it is that we're trying to see. So kind of with that in mind, let's go through the steps that we would use in order to actually look at a sample under oil immersion. So we are going to use the same basic setup as what we've done with our regular microscope usage. We do want to make sure that our stage is in the lowest position. We should have the 4x lens down, and we are going to now just go through all the different lenses and talk about these different ways that we're going to be doing our oil immersion. So I'm going to get my slide here, which has some bacteria on it, and I'm going to put it on the microscope, and then I'm going to sit down to make this a little bit easier. But again, on my 4x lens, I can use the coarse adjustment knob in order to get into focus. So I stained these bacteria with methylene blue, so we are looking for something blue, kind of like what we have right here. Now what I can do is I can move on down to the 10x lens, and now again I'm only going to be using the fine adjustment knob in order to get into focus. So I'm just kind of going to see, there we go, that should get me roughly into focus on this one here. Then we can jump down to the 40x lens. And with the 40x lens, let's see, there we go. Because of the way that my phone camera works, we can't quite get the full view on this one here, but we at least got that center part kind of now nice and focused. And at this point here again, all we've done is just the same as what we've done in the other laboratory or in the other microscope labs. We've gone all the way down to the 40x and we focused it using the fine adjustment knob. So now we can actually do the oil immersion part. And it's kind of important that you go through and you do all these steps first before you add the immersion oil. The oil again will also bend light, so if you add the oil to begin with and then go down through all the slides or all the different lenses, it might look kind of blurry all the way down through and it can be kind of hard to focus. And the other big thing is that you might get it on the 40x lens and now you have two lenses to clean at the end. So we don't really want to do that. Now, I'm going to assume again that I'm ready to go. I'm going to do my oil immersion. And what I'm going to do is that I'm basically going to move halfway between my 100x and my 40x. And now I'm going to take my little dropper with my immersion oil and I'm just going to put a single drop of immersion oil right where the light is located. And that's basically how we do the oil immersion technique. Now I can go ahead and I can only move down onto the 100x lens. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to move the 100x lens down into the oil. And at this point, again, you should see it kind of wrapping up around it if you're looking at it from the outside of the microscope. But now we can go ahead and we can try to visualize our little bacteria and try to see if we can get it into focus. It is going to be very finicky on the 100x lens, so if for some reason it gets completely dark, you might have to turn up the light a little bit, or if for some reason you're just not seeing it at all, you will want to basically go back and forth quite a bit, and sort of a technique that you can use, again, only use the fine adjustment up on the 100x. But let's say again that I was kind of out like this and I can kind of see a little bit of that in the background. What you can kind of do is like go back and forth like this, and the little flashing of them can kind of help you sort of zone in on exactly where they're going to be located. So you can only do that again using the fine adjustment knob. Do not do that with the coarse adjustment knob, because you might accidentally literally dig the lens down into the slide if you do that. The biggest way that you know that you goofed on this is that if the slide actually pops off the microscope. That can happen just from the pressure of it being pushed down onto the slide. So let's, avoid that basically. Now, when we're ready to then be done, again, let's say, I found my bacteria under the microscope. Looks like we got some bacilli down in there in this sample here. Once I'm then ready again to take all my stuff off, move your lens, the 4x lens down, lower the microscope down into the lowest setting. And then after that, we're gonna go ahead and clean it. So we have specific type of paper, what we call lens paper. Here's an image of that. And you wanna make sure that you use that paper in order to clean the lens the best. Generally, we don't wanna use anything else other than that lens paper just because it's very fine and it allows us not to scratch the lens. We do generally also put a little bit of what we call lens cleaner on it. It's just this tiny little blue solution here. And once you've then cleaned up the microscope, then you can basically store it and put it away. But really, that should cover how did you do oil immersion on a microscope.